Hey, don't worry, there's no sardines on this keto pizza, but there are macadamia nuts. All right, let's get to the science. I've got a ketogenic pizza recipe, and you're probably thinking this is gonna be some generic kind of pizza recipe where Thomas is just gonna take a cauliflower crust and he's gonna throw random toppings on it. But you guys know me, and if you've seen my videos, you know I'm all about the science. So I have made up this pizza to be the perfect ratio of healthy fats and low amounts of protein, so you actually get the right kind of ketogenic ratios that you should be having. And every single one of these ingredients has an anti-inflammatory component to it and is also going to help out the ketogenic lifestyle in a tremendous way. Now, those of you that know me and follow me know that I just had a baby boy. I'm super excited, but it also means that time is becoming a precious commodity. So I figured, okay, this is something that I've already made twice since I've had the kid, about 2 weeks ago. And I figured I'm gonna share it with you because it's a quick, easy thing that you can make at home. We're making cauliflower crust pizza, but we're using specific ingredients to make it the perfect, scientifically proven ketogenic pizza. Now, I could go ahead and I could make this with regular cauliflower crust that I make from scratch, and I've done it before. I've done it on the Home and Family Show, but honestly, it takes a while, and this video would end up being 30 or 40 minutes long. So I'm gonna use cauliflower crust pizza, okay? Now, I'm gonna give them a big shout out because they did donate the pizza crust for this, and they are super awesome. So it comes like this, where it's already a pre-created cauliflower crust pizza. So I've already got the crust. So what I've done is I've already put that in the oven, and that's all squared away and cooking because that has to start out being cooked before I can start putting the ingredients on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna grab that, and then I'm gonna get to the actual ingredients and lay out the science of each ingredient. Now, before I go any further with this, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna make sure that this is preheated to 375. Okay, so that's getting warmed up. And in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and lay that crust out right there. Now let's get to some science. So I've got the cauliflower crust laid out. Now here's the reason why I prefer using cauliflower crust over using an almond flour crust. Cauliflower contains diindolylmethane, okay? Indole 3 carbinol and diindolylmethane are very, very powerful anti-aromatase. So basically what that means is it stops the conversion of testosterone into estrogen. We have this enzyme in our body known as the aromatase enzyme, and it's the job of that aromatase enzyme to take that free-flowing testosterone in our bodies and turn it into estrogen, which causes us to hold a lot of water, causes us to feel bloated, and quite frankly, makes us feel moody, whether you're a man or a woman. So cauliflower, definitely powerful anti-estrogenic food. So that's why we're using it there. But then the next thing that I'm gonna go ahead and add on here, I'm not using marinara sauce, I'm actually going to use pesto. Now the reason that I'm using pesto is simple. It contains good old-fashioned pine nuts. So the thing about pine nuts is they contain something known as pinolenic acid. Pinolenic acid is very intriguing in the fact that it produces what's known as CCK, also known as cholecystokinin. Cholecystokinin is a satiety hormone. It's released in our digestive tract whenever we're satiated, similar to ghrelin. In fact, a study that was published in the Federation of the American Societies of Experimental Biology actually found that those that consumed about 3 grams of pinolenic acid ended up consuming, on average, 37% less calories than those that did not. So very, very, very potent appetite suppressant. This isn't just one of those 5 favorite foods or 5 top foods things. Those good old pine nuts really have a really powerful result in terms of reducing your appetite. Okay, so then after that, I've just got some regular old-fashioned almond cheese. Nothing crazy here. I'm just using almond cheese because I don't want the dairy. I don't want the excess dairy. There's no need to have it. You know, sprinkle that on there, super simple. Trader Joe's has an awesome almond cheese. Only has about 1 or 2 grams of net carbs, so super, super simple there. Okay, now we get on to the goat cheese. Why am I using goat cheese? I know I just said I'm not using dairy. It all comes down to something known as BCM7. If you've ever researched casein or you've researched lactose before, you know that those are the 2 different components of dairy that can affect people. Well, when it comes down to goat cheese uses A2 casein proteins, okay? There's A1 and there's A2. A2 is the old variation of casein protein, the casein protein that doesn't have a lot of negative effects on people. A1 is the newer casein protein that's in all the modern cow milks and everything like that. And it occurred through a genetic mutation that occurred a couple of thousand years ago. So the whole world of cow dairy had changed a couple thousand years ago, and now we're getting to a point where there's so many additional hormones and so many additional things in cow milk, it's really, really bad. So when we have goat milk, we only have the A2 casein. We don't have the A1 casein. So it's a lot cleaner on the body. It comes down to the amino peptide chain. So you have 209 amino acid chain when it comes down to dairy, okay, especially when it comes down to goat cheese. Okay, when you're looking at the casein protein blend, you have 209 aminos that link up to make that casein protein. Okay, it's only one messed up amino that throws off the whole thing. Number 67 in that chain of 209 is something known as histidine. Histidine is a very, very weak chain. It's a weak amino. So it makes it so that when it hits the body and the body starts to break it down, it turns it into basically this nightmare of BCM7, which is an opioid. So it makes us very sick. It's extremely oxidatively stressful, causes a lot of damage to the body. That's where all the stress from dairy comes into play. So when I'm talking about a ketogenic diet, I'm a huge fan of keeping dairy as limited as possible and going with goat cheese whenever possible. So all I'm gonna do with this is just throw a few chunks here. Goat cheese, you don't have to do anything crazy. It actually tastes better in bigger chunks anyway. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add some basil as well. You can use fresh basil or you can just use dried up basil like this. It has some really powerful anti-inflammatory components to it as well, plus it adds a nice little flavor. All right, now you're gonna think I'm really crazy when I give you this one. Have you ever tried putting macadamia nuts or any other nut on a pizza before? If you haven't, you need to try it. Especially once you put it in the oven and you toast them for a little bit, makes all the difference in the world. So these macadamia nuts contain a particular omega known as omega-7, also known as palmitoleic acid. This palmitoleic acid does something interesting in the body. In fact, it actually helps activate other fat-burning mechanisms within the body. So you know how I'm always talking about omega-3 fatty acids and their importance? Well, omega-7s allow the body to utilize those omega-3s a lot better. There was actually a study that was done by the Cleveland Clinic that found by simply introducing palmitoleic acid into the diet, after the course of 30 days, ended up reducing C-reactive protein levels by 44%. You might be wondering what that means, but C-reactive protein is the main indicator of inflammation in the body. So not only now do we have a ketogenic friendly high-fat pizza, we've got one that's going to be extremely powerful when it comes down to reducing C-reactive protein levels and thereby modulating inflammation a little bit. So we're in really good shape with this. Lastly, this is totally up to you. You can add a little bit of chicken to the pizza. Okay, here's the thing. Ketogenic diets are supposed to be 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 fats to protein. You do not need to be having loads of protein. I know so many guys that make a ketogenic pizza that end up adding meats upon meats upon meats. Well, guess what? You're probably gonna kick yourself out of ketosis. So I'm a huge fan of just putting a tiny, tiny bit of organic free-range chicken, and I mean a small amount. You probably only need a couple ounces at the very most for the entire pizza, because remember, we're trying to keep the ratio right. Right now, this pizza is almost exactly a 3-to-1 ratio, simply by default. And I'm gonna give you the ingredients in the description. You'll have all the layouts of the exact formula of what I used here. Okay, now all I have to do, slide this bad boy back on the tray. Put her back in the oven. Gonna let that cook for about 7 to 8 minutes, just until the cheese melts. Remember, the crust is already cooked. So I'm gonna let that cook for a minute. I'll be right back when it's all done and I'll share the finished product. And after about 7 or 8 minutes in the oven at 375, you are in shape. Now, don't worry if the crust comes out looking a tiny bit burnt. That's actually pretty normal. It's just the fact that the cauliflower crust is getting a little bit crispy. Even though it looks like it's a little bit dark, it's not burnt. It's just it getting completely toasted. I'm gonna let that cool for just a couple of minutes, and once that's cool, we'll serve it on up. So we're all served up now. Everything is good to go. I hope that you enjoy this crazy keto pizza that is totally unconventional and unlike any other keto pizza that's out on YouTube. Remember, get your diindolylmethane on to fight that estrogen from the cauliflower crust pizza, and a big thank you to Cauliflower Crust Pizza up here in California. Make sure you check them out. And remember, we've also got the palmitoleic acid coming from the macadamia nuts. We've got the A2 casein protein coming from the goat cheese. Then of course, we have the pinolenic acid coming from the pine nuts that's gonna help you in a lot of ways when it comes down to appetite suppression. And you are good to go. You have got your perfect keto-friendly pizza. I will see you in the next video.
That's great. I didn't think nuts on a